Good morning, friends. In this lecture, today we are going to discuss Geoffrey Chaucer's humor in the Canterbury Tales. Friends, we know that Geoffrey Chaucer is considered as the father of English poetry, the father of English literature, who was born in 1341 and died in 1400. He was a legendary poet of the 14th century British society. In our previous lecture, we discussed Geoffrey Chaucer as the realistic poet. We discussed the element of realism in Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales. Friends, Chaucer is also known as the first great humorist of English literature because the element of humor bubbles in his poetry, The Canterbury Tales. Before we discuss the element of humor in his poetry, first we need to understand what humor is in literature. Humor is an essential element of any literature. We have seen William Shakespeare, we have read William Shakespeare's plays, we have read the plays of George Bernard Shaw. So Bernard Shaw, William Shakespeare, these are some of the important humorists of English literature. But the first humorist, if somebody asks you who was the first humorist of English literature, then undoubtedly you may say that it was Geoffrey Chaucer, who wrote poetry during the 14th century. He was the first humorist of English literature. Humor means that quality of action, speech, or writing which creates amusement. The basic idea of presenting the actions, speech, or anything written is to create humor. Okay? The true form of humor is that which makes one laugh only for the sake of pleasure and enjoyment. It does not hurt anyone's feelings, nor does it pinch or agonize anybody. That is considered as the true humor in literature. Let's discuss some of Chaucer's characteristics as a great humorist. Chaucer is a great humorist because he loves mankind in spite of its follies and weaknesses. No doubt he exposes them, but at the same time he laughs at the characters whom he has presented, but at the same time he loves them. And this is the charm and beauty of Geoffrey Chaucer as a humorist. Even while he gently, exposes them, he unmasks them, he feels grateful to them as he gives, because they give him pleasure. There is no malice. There is no malice, in his attitude towards them. His attitude is that of benevolence and tolerance. Even his satire is in the form of tender shafts of irony, which neither hurts nor destroy the characters. That is why he is considered as an important humorist of English literature. Chaucer may be regarded as the first great humorist because no English literary work before him reveals humor in this modern sense. His humor does not simply raise a simile but also relieve us from the seriousness of life, from the gloom of life. He is a great master of humor, and all his writing, abound with its richness and variety. If I caught Mansfield is one of the important critics of Geoffrey Chaucer. He has said that he is a great Renaissance gentleman mocking the Middle Ages. This the quotation which you can see on the screen, is said by Chaucer. He said by Mansfield. He said that Chaucer is a great Renaissance gentleman mocking at the Middle Ages. Chaucer possesses all the characteristics of a great humorist. Firstly, he has Catholicity and tolerance of spirit which save it from slipping into satire. Secondly, Chaucer has the faculty of humor which is fed by the keen and penetrating observation. And thirdly, Chaucer has a healthy interest in the world as in life. That is why we consider him as an important poet, as an important humorist. Chaucer's humor is essentially English in nature, English in character. Chaucer's is an essentially English humor, as we see is qualities in the works of great humorists like William Shakespeare and Henry Fielding. It is not the wit of the Frenchman. His humor is chiefly concerned with the people and happenings of everyday life, as we see in the Canterbury Tales. Some of the facts are quite trivial in themselves, but they become amusing because of the way in which they are told. For example, if we take the example of the character, the squire, the squire's locks, which as if they were laid in press, with looks cruller as they were laid in press. Similarly, if you see the example of wife of Bath, her hat is too much heavy, her kerchief but fine were ground, I does swear they weighed in 10 pounds. This is what Chaucer has written. The reeve's thin legs, humor comes out from this minute description, this minute observation of Geoffrey Chaucer. He describes the character, the reeve's thin legs, the franklin's weakness for sharp saws. In these and other examples, we see the comic quality of amused observation. Chaucer's humor is very sympathetic and objective, and Chaucer's humor is for man and humanity. His humor is without any sting. Sting of a snake, we say. There is no sting in his humor. He is always sympathetic, except in his handling of the monk and the friar. Monk and the friar, these two characters, he has dealt with very harshly, but except these two characters, we may say that in all rest of his characters, he has sympathetic attitude while mocking at the characters. He makes us appreciate a character even when laughing at it. This is the beauty of Chaucer. His humor is not of satirical kind as compared to the Langland, who attacks the church with keen and telling thrust. Chaucer exposes the corruption of the church with good humored laugh. Moreover, Chaucer makes us more of the individual than the institution. The genuine sympathy saves Chaucer not only from the bitterness but also from the bias. Satire is born of indignation. Langland's picture of evil does not reflect the real state of affairs, while on the other hand, it is faithfully mirrored in Chaucer. If you compare Langland with Chaucer, Langland is also another humorist of English literature. If you compare, you find this difference. Therefore, we can say that he is an objective humorist, a better realist, and an indignant satirist. Chaucer's humor is essentially, he is a man and he is a man of humor. He is no doubt a man of satire. Satire is there in his humor, but that satire does not harm the characters, does not hurt the characters. Right? Chaucer's humor leads him to be the poet of man and humanity. He has, large humanity and good humored tolerance for man. He has no disdain for fools and no disgust for rascals. While gently unmasking the roguery of rogues, he is grateful to them for the pleasure they give. He loves to dwell on their funny traits, looks at their pranks and tricks with amused delight. All these things, make him a good humorist. Chaucer's many-sided humor can be used, humor can be used in a broad as well as a limited sense. In the narrow sense, it means a gentle mirth, simply gentle mirth, a smile. In the broader sense, it stands for the boisterous humor, intellectual humor, and bitter humor. Chaucer's work reflects all these different types of humor. Albert is one of the critic. Albert has beautiful expressions for this many-sided humor of Geoffrey Chaucer. He writes, I quote, "In the literature of his time, when so few poets seem to have any perception of the fun in life, the humor of Chaucer is invigorating and delightful." So Albert. Another important characteristic of Chaucer's humor is that it is spontaneous, it is natural. It is because of his peculiar way of looking at things, as the bent of his mind is essentially humorous. His humor is not the result of deliberate or calculated efforts. It is spontaneous expression. Therefore, it has unmistakable marks of ease, of spontaneity, of naturalness, and of effortlessness. One of the important critics of Geoffrey Chaucer, Walter Raleigh, he says that his joy is chronic and irrepressible. The Canterbury Tales, you can say, radiates with the natural joy that Chaucer felt in writing it. You know, another important characteristic of Chaucer's humor is impartiality and tolerance. In the whole company of the prologue to the Canterbury Tales, there is a series of characters. So many characters are presented. Some are good and some are bad. If you compare the good and bad number of the good and number of the bad characters, we may say that there is a large amount of bad characters presented in comparison to the good characters. But Chaucer's attitude to them is neither that of unruffled and quiet objectivity nor of partnership. Guided by his sense of humor, Chaucer observes everything and records each detail with smiling eyes. Slightly emphasizing one aspect here and another aspect there in order to evoke in the reader that psychological state which makes him laugh without malice. And that is the reason why, another critic called Legois has rightly commented that he means Chaucer is entirely patient with, nay, he accepts with a smile the imperfection of humanity. Chaucer is a poet who accepts the bad characters, even the bad characters, who are imperfect characters. He accepts them with a human approach. Okay, and this is the greatness of a humorist. Tolerance, indulgence, and capacity for enjoying life are the important elements of Chaucer's humor. The result is that the portraits he draws before us, they become true to life. They come out as lively characters. They become very interesting and enjoyable, lifelike characters because he presents them truthfully and artistically. Humor for the sake of humor. Humor is the medium of Chaucer's artistic expressions. In Chaucer's poetry, humor is just for the sake of humor only. He laughs at the characters and he forgives the characters. He forgets the characters. Chaucer is never a serious artist. His aim is primarily to entertain the readers. His aim is never to be a moralist or a preacher. Chaucer was a kind of a poet who never wanted to preach some serious sermons through his poetry. He never wanted to teach some philosophical ideas in his poetry. He wanted to show life as he observed during 14th century. He laughs at them, but then he forgets and he forgives them. He observes his age sympathetically and humorously. Chaucer does not specifically or directly criticize any institution of his age. No doubt, he exposes the institution of church in his poetry. He exposes the corruption which was existing among the church authorities, but he laughs at them, he criticizes them, but then his criticism does not lead to any revolt. Okay, he is a poet who explores the theme of the individual and his relation to the society. Right? At the end, we can say that Chaucer's humor is the outcome of a generous sympathy and broad mindedness. These excellencies are imitated by the greatest English humorists like William Shakespeare and Henry Fielding. Chaucer's influence as a humorist in English literature is commendable, is immense. Even the greatest of the great, William Shakespeare, it is said he is also influenced by Chaucer's humor. Henry Fielding, an important novelist of English literature, is also much influenced by Chaucer's humor. Critics may be divided in their opinion as to Chaucer's right to be called the father of English poetry, but there can be no question that he is the first great English humorist. There are some debates going on among the critics whether Chaucer can be called the father of English poetry or not. But there is no debate, there is no controversy. All the critics unanimously agree to the fact that Geoffrey Chaucer was the first great humorist of English poetry. And that's why, if you can see this last quotation which I have kept here on the screen, Ames, Ames, one of the critics, he said that Chaucer must have been a man of a most wonderful comprehensive nature, because as it has been truly observed of him, he has taken into compass of his Canterbury Tales the various manners and humours of the whole English nation in his age. Chaucer has a broad view, where he observes the society, man and the whole mankind. He presents their manners, their customs, their humours, in a light-hearted manner, in a light mood. All these things are presented. No doubt he criticizes, he attacks at some of the bad humor or the bad behavior of the society, but at the same time, he does not bring about a kind of social change. When he was writing his poetry, he did not have any such idea to bring about a huge social change through his poetry. So Chaucer was not so much serious about teaching moral lessons to the society. He had nothing kind of he did not want to be a philosopher, right? So he remains a poet and a great poet. He remains a humorist and a great humorist. Friends, here we come to the end of this discussion. I hope the idea is clear. If you have any doubts, you may ask me later. Thank you very much.